Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Late Lap, episode number 6 here on latelap.com. We're just making sure we've got everything here. It looks like we do. And we took a few days off last week. That's because we've got some crazy fun announcements to break tomorrow. We have a new Nitro racing team at the professional level announcing their existence tomorrow. And it's going to be on the WFO radio show. And maybe a little surprising, but I'm going to help them launch. And I'm really looking forward to representing another team. It happened out of nowhere. I got a call. You're not going to say goodbye to the Late Lap. The Late Lap's not going anywhere, but a brand new team in drag racing will be announced tomorrow around 9-10 o'clock Eastern. And up front, let me be a little transparent here. Up front, you may be a little confused or think that we're overselling this, but when you find out how we're going to do this, your world is going to be shook. A new team in the world of drag racing is coming out soon. So we've been doing that. And then if you missed out last week's show, of course, you've got a great wish of thank you and appreciation from old AJ over to Bobby Bennett, Competition Plus, Lee Craft, that's Monday Morning Racer, and the Power Hour for having me. I see Dugenet, of all people, as I'm talking about you here in the comments. What up, my man? Asking me, hey, you want to come on over here and talk? And I want to be very real for a minute. I was never unfair, but I've not always praised Comp Plus. I was always fair, but if something rubbed me the wrong way, I've never been shy. And I want you to do the same thing with my content. If I piss you off, if you don't care for what I have to say, I want you to tell me. But those moments aren't fun, but I won't be bought and paid for. When I have an opinion, I'm going to tell it how it is. I told you guys that a while back, and that's important to me. So most of that is purely opinions and attitudes, but they invited me on, and I had a great time. I learned a lot from Lee, and so if you haven't checked it out, go over to Competition Plus. Their Power Hour show is weekly, Tuesday evenings at 9 o'clock. Go over to Competition Plus, hit subscribe, and tell them your boy AJ sent you, because I had a great time. And over here, I don't always talk about drag racing. I did learn to love drag racing over the last 4 seasons working in the NHRA. I walked away. I found a new opportunity outside of the world of motorsport. And I went home in Studio 1396, Columbus, Ohio, and I said, let's do it all over again. I used to be a member of the media, and I'd like to again. So I did this deal, and we're still working on it. And yeah, it's a green screen, and yeah, it's some cheesy graphics, but it's I want you to come here and forget about life for a while, for anywhere between 30 and 60 minutes. No show will be a guaranteed hour. No show will be a half hour flat. That's the great thing about the internet. I can make this show as short or long as possible, whether you guys tune in, and God love you if you do, or not. This is just a way for us to all let off a little bit of steam, share a little bit of our opinions, and hopefully we learn something here or there, and hopefully, it's once again, finally, it's a place to forget about life for a while. Well, I got to do that last week. I missed one of our shows to do Competition Plus. I missed one of our shows to work with a new drag racing team. And that is something that I cannot wait to talk more about. It is going to drop tomorrow. Tomorrow, it is going to drop. This is happening. And at first, once again, if you're just tuning in, at first you're going to say, AJ, you sure have been talking a lot of stuff here. Why is this a big deal? Why this person? And I'm going to say, listen, we're just announcing the team tomorrow. We're announcing the team tomorrow. We're going to talk about where they are racing. This is Nitro, okay? This is not amateur racing. We're going to talk about who owns the team, and that's key here. Who owns this team is why it's going to go into the next level, and why they're going to do something. If you're a NASCAR person, think about what Justin Marks has done with Trackhouse. This is a huge deal, and we're going to talk about it tomorrow. I'll be in the behind the scenes world, but I'm going to listen to Joe Costello's show and his guest, and we're going to talk about something really big. So I want you to watch WFO Radio tomorrow, and I want you to stay here because that same owner, they're going to come here on my show later this week, and they're going to go over to Racing Refresh. And I'm going to do my damnedest to get him on Power Hour. I'm going to get him on your show. And we're going to talk about him in the press. Because it's different. This is not the same old, let's have a press release because it's what you do. This is not the same, let's talk about our sponsors because it's what you have to do. And it's not, let's go to the races because it's what you need to do. This is about two things. Winning, I'll give you that. It's a little bit of a cliche. But number two, entertainment and having fun. This is an old school approach with a new school amount of money. And I'm telling you, give it a few years, give it a few months, but you're going to learn that tonight, when I told you about this team, and earlier when I teased it, this is big. This is big. And tomorrow, we won't talk about the exact specifics of the roster, but this is not we might go racing. There's already a driver. There's already sponsors. There's already a crew chief. But right now we're going to start with just who the owner is. And it's going to be tomorrow on Joe Costello WFO Radio. I can't wait. In the comments here, we have Dugenais. I'm going to need them to come on my show then. I'm a little disappointed I didn't get the ability to break the news. Listen, I understand. I didn't get to break it either. I just get to tease it because with all due respect, our audience isn't as big as Joe's. If my audience or yours was as big as his, I would have went that way because the whole job is promoting. That doesn't mean you won't get your shot, though. I'm a man of my word. We'll have some fun. And you're saying I got to tell it. What does it say here? Got to tell it true. Tell it like it is, brother. Hey, listen, if there's one thing I've always said, telling the truth has gotten me in far more trouble than if I was ever a liar. I'm just not willing to lie. But I do tell the truth, and I piss off a lot of my friends and family. A lot. I want to say thank you to anybody that's tuning in. If you're new, this is a new world of motorsport content. It's called The Late Lap. Hit that subscribe button. Please send it to your friends. Listen. It's going to be different. We're growing this show, and oh man, we spent over the weekend, talked to some friends, talked to my brother. We're going to build a set. It's going to look. Remember when I promised that I was going to do this new, weird, different show, and people were like, "Yeah, okay," but well, here we are. Well, my next promise, we're going to build this bitchin' set, and it's going to be different. It's not going to be as large as Sports Center, but it will do something cool. So when I put my arm off to the side, you don't lose me because of the green screen. It's going to be it's going to be a room. It's going to feel real. You're going to tell that I'm taking this seriously. And that's what I want. That is what I want. So thank you for watching. I've got a show lined up for you. And you've learned if you've watched more than one episode, sometimes we go with the teleprompter. Sometimes we don't. Tonight, no prompter. No prompter. And that's why we're going to start with Bill Weber. Bill Weber is very well known as being one of the most prominent motorsport announcers. He's covered mostly NASCAR, but he's also covered, auctions. He's covered motocross. He's covered car auctions and car shows, the LA Auto Show. He was a guy that really, he knew how to paint a picture, and maybe not quite that way that some of the real legends did, but it was enough that he didn't make many mistakes. And of course, he would start a pre-show with a lot of analysis and he would say things like, "You don't have to do the math because we already did." And that was a cool way of ending and going into commercials, because he would give you those wicked cool stats before Twitter and Reddit. Him and his team, they would put together some great commentary. And of course, he was paired with a group of men that made him more iconic than maybe he would have been. And he played off of his teammates well. Now, if you go to YouTube, you're going to find some funny things where he lost his temper a couple of times. But listen, who hasn't? God knows I have. But overall, Bill Weber, he did some different things. He worked alongside Benny Parsons. Oh, the stories they could tell. Alan Bestwick. Wally Dallenbach. He was a part of a lot of different things. Mark Rebellis, if you're an NHRA guy, he shared a photo he took of Bill Weber back in the TNN days, an early ESPN career for Bill Weber. So he worked for a few different networks. But what he was most prominently known for was that $4.4 billion CBS TV deal where CBS lost and NBC and Fox came in at the start of the 2001 season. And Bill Weber was oftentimes the lead for the NBC shuffling booth. He called the Daytona 500 for Jimmy Johnson, the first that Jimmy Johnson won. He also called 3 of the summer races at Daytona. And, of course, one of 7 championships for Jimmy Johnson. So he was right at the start of that dynasty era of Jimmy. He got to see a lot of cool things. And unfortunately, at the end of his career, it's pretty much widely accepted he was let go by Turner Sports. And he went into street performance and magic art and illusions. And some reports were even that he may have even been entertaining at some hotels. But he stuck with entertainment. And that's the thing, folks. I mentioned with the drag race team earlier, and I mentioned through our show and really everything. Motorsport is a way of life. It's a hobby. But if it's not a form of entertainment, I don't know what is. Sometimes it's tough to swallow that pill because we want racing to be as competitive and fierce as the FIFA World Cup. Is it still called FIFA? Somebody figure that out. It's important that we do entertain, though, and that was something really, really important to him, was that he was entertaining and that he was painting a picture. And I think he did a darn good job. Through the numbers, he was 67 years old. Bill Weber passed away. The graphic says 24. Of course, 2025. You don't have to do the math because we already did. Moving on today to start our first vehicle feature of the week. Last week we talked about the 2023 Kia Stinger GT. Kia Stinger, the GT, the fact that it's rear-wheel drive, puts out 368 horsepower, something really, really cool. And I think it's something that we should all love. But some people not as much. Woo, hate doing that on air. Today's Delta 88, the 1977, not only the Delta, but also the Oldsmobile lineup. So when we come back, it'll be time to learn a little bit about the Olds. We're going to check 15 seconds for station identification. That one's for you, Bill Weber. And then we're going to talk about the Olds 88. We'll be right back. And we are back here. Now, folks that are repeat watchers, I want you to compare last week's show where we talked about the Kia GT. It was me with the prompter, okay? Now, today, it's an audio, like a podcast story about Oldsmobile. And then when we come back, we'll talk about how great this series of cars were in the late 70s. But I also want to know your feedback. Do you like the storytelling more? Do you like the transcript more? We've got different options, but for right now, today's episode of Under the Hood, brought to you by Speedmaster, is about the 77 Oldsmobile Delta 88.
Hey, I need you. Hey, hey. So
The year was 1977. The world was changing. And in the heart of Detroit, a a company dedicated to excellence was about to redefine what it meant to build a great American car. This wasn't just about producing automobiles. This was about innovation, thoughtful design, and a deep understanding of what drivers truly desired. This was the year Oldsmobile unleashed its 1977 lineup, a testament to the enduring pursuit of perfection. Their philosophy was clear. In man's search for a new measure of a sleek, sporty expression of this engineering excellence. The coupe took all the advancements of the sedan and wrapped them in a distinctively stylish package. The exclusive formal roof of the coupe was a hallmark of that era and added its own appeal. Its design conveyed an energetic spirit that was hard to resist. Scene now shows a montage of all the models, highlighting the variety. Looks like we lost our audio there. Another audio woe. If any of you are a sound engineer, I'm more than interested in learning. You see, when we used to do a stage show here, it'd be about 4 of us at a desk. My man Tyler Lawler was our audio engineer. So this is 3 out of 6 that we've had audio issues. So I do apologize. We'll upload the Delta 88 feature on its own here on the YouTube channel. Real shame that we lost it that way. I apologize to everybody watching here, but a real classic. I'm looking forward to hearing people's feedback on what they prefer, whether it's the monotone, the Ben Stein style where you're just kind of listening and absorbing it. You fall asleep to it. Maybe you want something real exciting. Maybe you want to see visuals and videos. We're going to keep developing that. But what's under the hood today is the 1977 Oldsmobile lineup, headlined by the Oldsmobile Delta 88. If you're a NASCAR or a football fan, you may know ESPN's Ryan McGee. His first car ever, a Delta 88. It was a 1979, and he told me today that the rest of his life was never the same. It only went downhill from there. An absolute classic of a vehicle, and I think that that's one that you should really, really enjoy. So the 1977 Oldsmobile, we will upload that feature by itself to the YouTube channel. You can talk about that one, the Kia GT, and every car in this season's versions of What Is Under the Hood. Rolex 24. Listen, folks, the Rolex 24 from Daytona, I've done them all, okay? Let me toot my own horn for a minute. I've covered the Daytona 500, the Brickyard, the Indianapolis 500, the Coca-Cola 600, the U.S. Nationals. I've covered at Mid-Ohio. I've covered at Long Beach. I've been very fortunate to be here and there, okay? But only the Rolex 24 can I call king. No other race in the Western world means what the Rolex means. It's huge. Truly, it's huge. 61 entries were in this year. Over 4 classes. No class having more than 22 racers. And how about Roger Penske? That's right. Ever heard of him? Some people call him the wealthiest man born in Ohio. Roger Penske now employs tens of thousands of workers all over the world, and he has his race teams where he's won 3 straight NASCAR Cup Series championships. He's won Indy 500s galore. He's won All-Stars and everything. You name it. But the Rolex 24, it eluded him. 59 years ago, he won his last one. 59. He's in his 80s now, recipient of the Presidential Medal of Freedom. He's accomplished so many things in life, but the Rolex 24. So even the great ones, even the great Roger Penske can't always grasp this one. Meanwhile, Elio Castroneves has won it a handful of times. Jamie McMurray, one of the most underrated racers of all time, claimed one. A good friend of John Force Racing, Graham Rahal, has a win. Meyer Shank won out of Pataskala. Wayne Taylor Racing has won a few of them. So why do all of these different people win this race, but the great one, the captain, Roger Penske, can't? Well, 59 years ago he did, and then in 2024 he did. Last season he won the thing, and it was special. He had that hybrid powered by Porsche, and when they went and they met business. They led a lot of laps. Well, this year, 2025, they came in hoping to win back-to-back, something so few people have ever done. Of course, Ganassi and the 911 Turbo in the late 70s and early 80s, but overall, most people don't win 2 in a row. They came in hard. Of course, it was a overall class led by the prototype division, the GTP, and those hybrid model race cars are something really cool. What you used to worry about was your fuel. Now you're worrying about your batteries. Of course, they're not all electric, but they are unique. So the race started with the BMW class. That's Rahal, Lanigan, Letterman. And we will talk about the other classes another time, but right now, just that overall class, which typically is that GTP. And then, of course, it was about 2 hours into the race, and that beautiful BMW right into their own pit wall. It was like you were driving a video game. The weirdest, most unusual of mistakes. I see quite a few people here tuning in. Hit subscribe. Appreciate you coming in tonight. As the race went on, I'm Ohio boy. Meyer Shank Racing, just right down the road, less than 15 minutes from my home. I've been to their shop. They make us proud. But they haven't won the thing in a little while. And here they are. They're closing in, and then they fall. And then they close in, and then they fall. Of course, it was around 12 hours in, there was a crazy wreck involving about a dozen cars. All drivers well, no injuries. You wake up the next morning, you have your morning water, your morning coffee, maybe banana, some eggs. I like mine scrambled. You eat your breakfast, and you sit down. And you turn on the news. You turn on your TV. I had Peacock. You might have been watching on NBC or USA or whatever their network was. And you watch the race, and it says 2 hours to go. And you're thinking, well, it's been 22 hours. There certainly can't be anybody but one on the lead lap. Folks, at one point there were 5 cars on the lead lap in the GTP class. 5 cars, and it had been 22 hours of racing. It was wicked. And of course, in the other classes, you had the GTD Pro class, and there was some bitching and moaning left and right in that class. You had the factory-funded General Motors Team Corvette and the BMW cars. They were going head-to-head. It looked like Saturday Night on Dirt. They were actually hitting each other. I hadn't seen that in ages. In sports car, it's a gentleman's race. And so in their class, they still had 3 or 4 people on the lead lap. Of course, in the privateer class, the LMP2, Sebastian Bourdais, former Formula One racer, he gets another ring. And then overall, we're back to the GTP. We're closing down the laps, and Penske has it. They keep showing him on the camera, and it's his 2 cars, first and second. Think about that. 24 hours of racing goes by, and your 2 cars are first and second. You've put such a can of whoop ass on everybody that your 2 cars are first and second. And yet, no asses to have been whooped, because there are still several cars on the lead lap. If you didn't get a chance to watch it, it was a race of attrition. Men and women around the world have no fingernails left. It was something they should really be proud of. With about 20 minutes to go, Penske's cars start going at it, head to head, and finally it was prevailed that Philippe Nasser, the former racer for General Motors, for Mazda, he's raced for them all. He comes over, and he took the big win. And it was, of course, not a one-man team. They had 3, and then the second-place team was the Acura. So they got around. Penske didn't get the 1-2 sweep, but he did win 2 years in a row. And that's monumental. That's monumental. It really is. And then, of course, BMW and Cadillac, 4th and 5th, and JTC Miller Motorsports in 6th. We're talking about 5 different teams and the top 6. And of all of them combined, less than 3 laps down. Total, you add up all their laps. The top 6 teams included 5 organizations and less than 3 laps. One of the most competitive 24-hour marathons I've ever witnessed. To put it in perspective, it would be like going from Daytona Beach all the way to Long Beach Grand Prix and having some fun down there on the coast. They raced all the way across the country as far as how many laps. It was a total of 781 laps around the Daytona infield course. If you've just gotten into road course or sports car racing, something else that you may have noticed at where Lake Lloyd is, right next to it was an open field of grass, and it's been there for decades in Daytona. Well, after a NASCAR crash last summer, they've removed all the grass, and now it's all pavement. It looks like Talladega, something that'll be really odd if you're a sim racer or if you're looking for your marks, even if you're a fan just tuning in on the TV. Thought that was kind of cool. Overall, I just thought it was one of the best races and a great kickoff to the motorsport season. When it comes to races, there's plenty of them. When it comes to crown jewels at the national level, there's only a handful, and that's one of them. Of course, I want to talk about auto auctions. I don't have it here on my show notes, but Rick Hendrick bought VIN number 1 of another new Corvette. If you've not had the opportunity to see his museum, he has VIN number 1, I think, of every Corvette, but it's dozens and dozens and dozens of Corvettes, and he bought another for right around $5 million, maybe even more. Unfortunately, I was tuned into Rolex, and that's why it's not in the show notes, because I don't have official notes. Can we learn a little bit about what Rick spent on that? Of course, last weekend at Mecum, Jerry Seinfeld's Porsche did not sell, but it was up to $25 million. No reserve was met. Well, folks, it's the end of another great show. Closing time is here. You know, Dan Wilson wrote a song about closing time when he was with the band Semisonic, and I always loved that song. I thought it was just something really special. And so when I got into podcasting about 12, 13 years ago, I would play it at the end of it, and it wasn't very long until I got hit with a copyright strike. So we don't have Dan Wilson anymore. We have, Sonny Cleveland, but that's okay. Folks, I want you to know that this show is fun, and it's a labor of love. Even for a smaller half-hour show, it takes a lot of work to get these done. We're going to start having more guests. We're going to have some guests. We're going to have contributors. You know, when you watch your favorite cable news channel, it'll always be like CNN contributor or Fox News specialist. You know, it'll have these guys and gals that are just interested, just piping in on their expertise. We're going to start having some of those folks coming on. And when we talk about this race or that, maybe I don't know all the facts. Well, let's have them help me tell the story. We're going to have more music. Of course, last week we had Bizzo and Sonny Cleveland. We're going to have more car specials. And my favorite segment is that What's Under the Hood. I'm sorry about the sound audio. I'm just going to be blunt about it. I used to say if there's any issue, pretend it never happened. No, I'm going to be more honest. You know, we're not going to cover it up. We're going to do a lot more things, but we're still pretty new. If you're new to the show for the first time ever, do me one huge thing. Push that subscribe button. And if you're not interested in that, then leave. Because it ain't going to get any better. No, I tease. Thank you, everybody. At the end of every great show, I like to offer these words of advice. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to others. Smile, be happy, and until then, take care. And to our friends to the south, sea amable consigo mismo. Sea amable con otros. Sonríe, sea feliz. Hasta entonces, cuídese. Take care. Good night.